Silver, front lobby. Code Silver, front lobby. Code Silver, front lobby.
Active shooter events are increasing in our country. No one knows when or where the next tragedy might take place.
A man stood up in a crowded movie theater and opened fire.
But they are chasing a suspect.
I was in the library and the whole room was just filled with smoke and I heard gunshots all over.
Unfortunately, several of our locations have already experienced what it is like when this type of terrible event affects their community.
Trench coats opened fire.
December 2nd, 2015 changed our lives forever.
A deadly California shooting rampage, bloody streets, and a violent standoff between the police and alleged suspects.
How do you prepare yourself for an event such as this?
Moments after this lone gunman opened fire shortly after 12:30 a.m.
I'll always remember July 23rd, 2015.
Tonight, a mass shooting at this Louisiana movie theater. Police say 12 people were shot and 3 are confirmed dead, including the shooter.
My son was supposed to be at the movie theater that evening and ended up not going. That movie theater is the place my kids and I always go to.
She heard some pops, and that at first they kind of just thought it was part of the movie, and then they started seeing flashes, so that's kind of what made them realize that it was shooting.
Now the movie theater is a different place for us.
A massive manhunt for the armed gunman in California came to a head.
Even though the city was on lockdown, we still had to get blood to the victims. During the event, decisions had to be made quickly.
We got officers running here, back eastbound, chasing, now we're on foot.
It all happened so fast. It took something like this to happen for people to take training seriously.
Our organization's active shooter response policy provides guidance to any individual confronted by an active shooter situation. The activation of this plan will alert staff to take appropriate actions to respond to the active shooter event. An active shooter situation is unique and can unfold rapidly, requiring a response tailored to each specific scenario.
So you can step in any hospital anywhere in the United States and hear the word Code Silver, and it means active shooter.
Hospitals are disseminating this nationwide. It's important so that when something goes wrong, you'll know what to do.
Situational awareness is an important part of keeping yourself and others safe. In any location, get in the habit of knowing your exits. Never allow someone to follow you in through a doorway.
One of the things that we really want to impart here is to get all of us in the mindset of if you see something unusual, something that doesn't belong, don't just observe it or report it to your social media friends on Instagram. Say something to an authority figure who can actually help you do something to stop that, because some attacks are very easy to halt long before something horrific happens.
Let's talk about what to do if an active shooter situation arises. Dial 911 and inform them of an active shooter situation. Number and description of shooter, last known location, and type of gun. Announce over the intercom system Code Silver, along with the last known location and a description of the shooter if possible. If there is no intercom system, use another mechanism, for example phone or text. Quickly determine the most reasonable way to protect your own life. Remember that visitors and donors are likely to follow the lead of employees and managers during an active shooter situation. Immediately evacuate outside if safe to do so. Evacuate away from the shooter. Remove shoes if they will slow you down during a quick exit. Inform anyone in your immediate area to evacuate with you. Do not delay your evacuation by arguing or trying to persuade others to evacuate. Go to a safe location immediately.
Because what we're trying to teach you guys is that seconds are the difference between living and dying. Every 10 seconds someone died, so 5 seconds could be the difference between you getting him out the door and both of you being dead. You're stopping to go rumination, think, maybe I should do this, let me consult my manual, where's my badge? That 5 or 10 seconds you're wasting is enough for the bad guy to come in the door and go, boom, right in your chest. He's gone. 10 seconds, everybody dies. she's gone. You get what I'm saying? You got to start thinking time is life, okay? Time is life.
Exit the building with empty hands held open and high, so that everyone, especially the police, knows that you are not the shooter. Prepare to be searched. Do not ask questions, scream, or yell. Move quickly to the nearest designated rally point or as directed by law enforcement. Department managers and supervisors will be responsible for staff headcount and accounting for their staff.
One of the other rooms they barricaded, you know how many people were killed in that room? 0. He didn't get in. Count 6 and go boom in your head. And that's someone dying during an active shooter event. Because the idea of sitting and waiting and bunkering down and waiting for the cops is probably not so smart anymore, right?
Code Silver, front lobby. Code Silver, front lobby.
It doesn't work
Code
anymore.
Silver,
It's
front
old
lobby.
school. We're going to show you the new way.
Why do you have to go to a police academy to do that? You don't have to. Because your family is as important as Brandon's, right?
Evaluate your immediate surroundings for items that might be used to defend yourself. Some examples being scissors, a fire extinguisher, or any available heavy object.
You're going to jump. You're going to panic. You're not going to be able to function unless you practice. So just use the simplest thing.
If the shooter enters your hiding place, be prepared to attack as a last resort. Do whatever is needed to distract and disarm the shooter. This might include throwing objects at them, yelling, or directly attacking them. When police enter the facility, their goal is to take out the shooter. They are not there to provide medical aid or to help you get out of harm's way until the shooter is neutralized.
Get away and don't charge at the police officers. Because he or she is not going to be there to take care of you. We're going to be trained to go after the bad guy. Police officer! Police officer!
Bang, 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 bang.
Because I got a weapon in my right hand, and I haven't identified myself clearly as a civilian, and he hasn't seen whether or not I'm a threat. Communicating clearly what's wrong and what's going on. It's not enough to say active shooter on the overhead. Code green, code silver. Code silver where? What is that threat?
No matter how rapid the arrival of emergency responders, bystanders will always be the first on the scene. A person who is bleeding can die from blood loss within 5 minutes. Therefore, it is critically important to quickly stop blood loss. Be aware of your surroundings and move yourself and the injured person to safety if you are able to do so.
66% of people who die from gunshot wounds die from bleeding from an extremity, arms or legs.
Bystanders can take simple steps to keep the injured person alive until appropriate medical care is available. Here are 3 actions you can take to help save a life. 1. Apply pressure with your hands. Expose wounds to find where the bleeding is coming from and apply firm, steady pressure to the bleeding site with both hands if possible. 2. Apply dressing and press. Expose to find where the bleeding is coming from and apply firm, steady pressure to the bleeding site with bandages or clothing. 3. Apply a tourniquet. If applied pressure doesn't stop the bleeding, use whatever you can to apply a tourniquet above the wound. This might be a belt or other piece of clothing. If the bleeding doesn't stop, place a second tourniquet 2 to 3 inches closer to the torso from the bleeding. The tourniquet may be applied and secured over clothing.
Primary thing to think about is the things that are going to take you away. Massive arterial bleeding, protecting an airway, making sure they're breathing through that open airway, and then making sure there's enough blood flow, and God forbid you end up with head trauma. But those are your priorities. 3 minutes, and you've bled to death. There's blood going, just like in the movies. It's literally squirting. You apply direct pressure above the wound. Pull, pull, pull. Okay, turn. Just one turn, because if you do 3, it'll hurt him. Okay? Just one turn. In about 35 seconds, with a minimal explanation, she executed an action which can save someone's life. So, he's got a tourniquet on, but he's still oozing pretty good, and he doesn't have a second tourniquet. So the rule of thumb is you get that first tourniquet on, and it's tight as it can get, and you're still getting ooze, you put another tourniquet on higher up. But if you only have one in your kit, and you have this rather small but still adequate Kerlix, but you're going to take that using your finger and you're gonna pack that wound completely full of this gauze until it's literally balled up tight down in there. Then you're gonna take your ACE wrap, the other things you guys have. Somebody said you guys had Coban. Let's go around this leg and just keep wrapping and generate pressure. He's now shutting off the ooze, another way to stop a bullet wound. If you have a cellophane, a plastic bag, a Ziploc, you can create a chest seal. Rule of thumb with a chest seal is you seal 3 sides 2 inches wide, you leave 1 side to ventilate. But the whole point is this is centered up over the bullet hole, this is sealed on 3 sides, and air escapes the other way. So when he breathes in, this sucks down and prevents air from getting in on the outside of the lung and collapsing it. But when he breathes out, air escapes, and eventually the lung reinflates itself. 2 inches wide on 3 sides, work together physically. Yeah, you want it on bare skin, you guys, not on the shirt. They put a chest seal on him in less than 30 seconds with office tape and a potato chip bag. And the reason I asked for a potato chip bag, or I grabbed one, is that was actually done overseas in Iraq, okay? You don't need something fancy, you don't have to spend $1 bazillion.
Central Time, and then apparently before he did that also opened some kind of canister. Early reports it could have been a tear gas that served as a distraction or a smoke screen before he then opened fire.
The night of the Aurora Theater shooting, we had a member of our staff in there with her family member. She credits the active shooter response training to saving the lives of her and her family members that evening. When the attacker came in, she stated that he threw a smoke grenade and it went right over her head.
All I saw was, I heard the sound of metal canisters clinking around, and then I saw plumes of smoke.
She made a quick decision and acted upon that. And based on that, they got out the theater safely. At the Bless Center, we conduct active shooter response training every year. That training saved not just her life, but the life of her family.